First and foremost, select all the data, click insert and click this pivot table, and then click this new worksheet and click OK. After that, select this, how many siblings do you have, and then drag it into the rows. After that, click this and click value field settings and choose count.
So right now we're calculating the mode for the discrete data. From the formula, we need the lower boundary of the model class, the frequency difference between the model class and the class before it, the frequency difference between the model class and the class after it, and lastly the size or class width of the model class. So first we need lower boundary. So let's find the boundary, which is 0.5 and then 1.5, and from here we can calculate for each lower boundary of such class. And then the model class for this data is 3, which is 15, and then lower boundary is 2.5. D1 is the frequency difference of dt minus 15. Then we get 10. For D2 we do it the same way. This one minus 11. We get 4, and the class width is 1. And from here we can calculate the mode. Formula, we can calculate the mode, which is lower boundary and cat d1 over cat d1 plus d2 bracket times width, and then we get the mode. Now I will show you how to calculate the mean for the discrete data. First we need to find the fx for each class. First, times every frequency of the class, and same goes to every class. X, and then the sum of fx is, we can simply calculate using sum. Then we get 157, and then sum of frequency is 44, and then for the mode we can simply calculate it using sum of fx divided by sum of frequency. I'll show you how to calculate the median for the discrete data. First we need the cumulative frequency. 23, 38, and then 44, lower boundary of each class, 0.5, 1.5, and we can simply put it all the way down. Then the lower boundary of the median class is 3, which is high frequency. Lower boundary is 2.5. Cumulative frequency before the median class is 8. The frequency of the median class is 15, and its total 44. Then the size of the class is 1. And then we calculate it to simplify it, to make it easier. Get it by n over 2 minus, and then we get 14, and then we can simply calculate the median by using the formula plus bracket over frequency times width, get the median. So now I'll show you how to calculate the variance for the discrete data. First we need to find the x squared of each row, then the fx squared for each row, and then fx. If we calculate it, each row fx squared and the fx. And then summation of fx squared and then for calculate it, simplify up and calculate our variance is minus mhm, 4 sorry, squared over 70. Then for the variance, we can simply calculate it is over 40. So then we get 1. And lastly, the standard deviation is square root of variance, square root, then then we calculate the standard deviation in relation to the square root, then we get the value.
So now we'll be showing how to do histogram for the discrete data. So as you know, for histogram we need boundaries and also frequency. So select our data, go to insert and choose histogram. Then choose chart elements, axis, and go to more axis option. And then choose axis option and change the bins to by category. So now we have our histogram. So now I'll show you how to do frequency polygon for the discrete data. So firstly, we need to add one class before and after our present data, and then select all the data and go to insert, scatter, and choose scatter with straight lines. So as you can see, we already have our frequency polygon here. So now I'll show you how to do the algae for discrete data. So what we need is our data,
and also our cumulative frequency. So firstly, select all our data, go to insert, scatter, and choose scatter with smooth line. So after that, we will get our OGIF graph.
First and foremost, select all of the data, click insert and click pivot table, and then click new worksheet, and then click OK. After that, it will show like this, and then click how tall are you in cm, and then drag it into values. After that, click this and click value field settings and choose count and click OK, and then click one of the row tables, right click and click group. After that, click the starting point and ending point, and then choose the size class, which is 10, and then click OK. So this is the result.
So firstly, we need to calculate the mode, and based on the formula, we need lower boundaries D1, D2, and also C. So here we are going to write down what we need: D1, D2, and C. As for the lower boundary, first we need to find our lower boundary. And for the first class is 139.5, second class is 149.5, and we can just drag it to the bottom. So our modal class is 170 to 179, so our lower boundary of modal class will be 169.5. And as for D1 is frequency difference between the modal class and the class before it. So to calculate D1, we do this minus the class before it. And for D2, the frequency difference between the modal class and the class after it, which is this one minus this one. So we are just going to take 18 minus 5. And as for our class width is 10. So we already have all the data that we need. We can just insert it into our formula. L plus D1 over D1 plus D2 multiplied by class width. So there we get that our mode is 173 cm. So now we are going to calculate the mean of the continuous data. So to calculate this mean, we need sum of fx and also sum of x. So for our x, we are going to take the midpoint of our class as x. So the first one is 144.5, the next one is 154.5, and then we can just drag it until down. So as for our fx, it is going to be x time with frequency. So we take x times frequency and just drag down to make things easier. So this one is our sum of x, which are going to be this one, and also sum of fx is going to be like this. So our sum of fx is 7418. Our sum of x is 1017. And as for our mean, we can just insert the data, which is sum of fx 741,418 divided by sum of frequency, which is 44. So we want the data to be 4 decimal place. So there we have, our mean is 168.5909. So now we are going to calculate the median of our continuous data. So based on the formula, the data that we need is lower boundary of median class, cumulative frequency before median class, the frequency of median class, total number of observation, and also the class size. So the first one is lower boundary of median class. We're going to find the lower boundary. The first lower boundary will be 139.5 followed by 149.5, and then we can just write it down. Since our number of observation is 44, so our median is going to be our term 22, in between our term 22 and 23, which is in 170 to 179 class. So our lower boundary is going to be 169.5. So as for our cumulative frequency before median class, it is 11 plus 5 plus 4, which is going to be 20. And as for our frequency of median class, is going to be 18. And next is our class size. Our class size is 10. And to make our calculation easy, we are going to find n over 2 minus f first, which is 44 divided by 2 minus f, which is 2. So now we can calculate our median by inserting all the value inside the formula. Firstly, L plus n over 2 minus f over the small f times class size. So our median is going to be 170.6111. So we are going to calculate our variance and standard deviation of our continuous data. So based on the formula, the data that we need are sum of fx square and also sum of fx. So we are going to start by finding our x, which is midpoint, x square, fx, and also fx square. So for our midpoint, the first midpoint is going to be 144.5. Next one is 154.5, and we can just drag down to fill all the other class. As for x square, we're just going to take x to the power of 2 and drag down for all the other data. For fx, it is going to be frequency, which is f times x midpoint. So you're going to take 4 times 144.5, and as usual, just drag it down to fill all the other data. For fx square, we are going to times the frequency with x square. So you take x square times with frequency. So to find sum of x square, fx, and fx square, we can use the function sum and drag all the data that we need. So just drag to the right to calculate all the other data. So now we already have our sum of fx square, which is 1,256,671. Sum of fx is 7,418. So our sum of fx square is going to be sum of fx to the power of 2. It's this. So now we can already calculate our variance, which is sum of fx square minus sum of fx square divided by 44 over 44 minus 1, which is 141.0147. For our standard deviation, is going to be the square root of variance. So square root variance. So it is going to be 11.8750.
Alright, so today I'm going to show you how to do our histogram graph. So firstly, we take our boundaries, and then we also take our frequency, and then from here we go to insert, and then we choose this little icon, and we choose histogram, and then from here we press this plus button, and then we go to the arrow beside here, and then we go to the more axis options, and then from here we go to this little icon here also, and then we choose by category, and that is how we get our histogram graph. Alright, so for our frequency polygon with continuous data, firstly we'll have our class interval, and then from our class interval we'll convert it into midpoint. I mean, like, not convert it, we'll find our midpoint, and then we also have our frequency. But before that, we'll have to add one class each before and after, so that it will turn out into a frequency polygon graph. And then from here we'll take our midpoint and our frequency, and we'll go to insert, and then we'll press this little button here, and then from here we'll press here, and then we'll have our graph. And then to make it look nicer, we'll go here, and then we'll press this arrow button here, and then we press more options, and from here for maximum we'll take 210, and for our minimum we'll take 110, and that is all. Alright, so for our ogive graph using continuous data, firstly we'll have our class interval, and then from our class interval we'll get our upper limit, which is the maximum point for each class interval, and then from here we also have our frequency, and then from the frequency, if we add up, we'll get our cumulative frequency. And then to get our ogive graph, we'll take the upper limit and the cumulative frequency, and then we'll go to insert, and then we'll press this little icon, which is insert scatter or bubble chart, and then we'll go to scatter with smooth lines, and then from here we'll press chart elements, which is the plus button here, and then we'll go to the arrow here, go into more options, and then we'll press axis options, which is this icon, and then we'll go to axis options, and then for our maximum we'll set it to 210, and then for our minimum we'll set it to 120. And the point of doing this is to make it look nicer, and that is all.